be a friendly church, a loving church. And show yourself to be a church that trusts God. Dr. Roy Fish was quoted this morning. Happened to be Rick Warren's evangelism professor back when he was going to Bible college. Or maybe to seminary. Dr. Roy Fish, I heard him speak when I was new to Southern Baptist life. He was a guest speaker in the Michigan convention. Dr. Roy Fish, the evangelism conference speaker, the professor, he'd get you excited about going out and sharing the good news. You know, you hear that evangelist, he was an uncritical lover of souls. Kind of like Jesus. But he said, some of you have never led anybody to the Lord in a sinner's prayer yet. And I know there's some people here you never have. But he said, some of you, you've led quite a few people to the Lord. And you might go, yeah, actually I have. I've led some people to the Lord. Okay? So he's got everybody covered. Because he said, if you have led somebody to the Lord, chances are somebody else has already shared Jesus with that person. Now, it doesn't mean that you couldn't be the very first person to ever mention the name of Jesus, and you get that conversation all the way up to where you're picking the fruit, the person's saved. But maybe that was to give some encouragement to those who have not yet had the privilege of actually praying a sinner's prayer with somebody, helping them really come to receive Christ, that your labor has not been in vain. Because those who did get that privilege, they came after you when you taught your Sunday school class, or when you volunteered for Vacation Bible School, or when you warmly welcomed a person maybe who came to church because they had to, came with the parents. Serve the ministry by discovering my gifts and talents. See, I could call any of you up here, any of you, and ask you to give me an example of this. And I thought about that, but you know, it's my last sermon, and I've already heard tape, so when I do that, I've heard recordings of it. Sometimes it works really good, and sometimes it doesn't work real good. But how do you discover the gifts in the church? How do you discover your own gifts? You might ask somebody, do you see anything in me that might be God? Because the spiritual gifting is different than just natural ability. It's different than your experiences. Spiritual gifting might be something that you really haven't really fully explored yet. And God might give your brother or your sister just the right words to tell you, why don't you try doing this and just see how it works out? See if anybody gets blessed. See if there's any movement when you exercise this role. I'll serve the ministry of my church by discovering my gifts and talents. Every member of the church should make that commitment. I'm not an old has-been. You know, this idea, well, I already did my time in the church. I might be retiring from pastoring, but you know what? I've already been asked to play bass guitar in a sister church twice in August. Yeah, well, clap, clap, clap. But, you know, it's like, to me that's confirmation, because I thought, well, what would I do? And I thought, well, maybe I could just offer myself as a musician, because I know people like take vacations and such. I don't want to preach, I want to enjoy myself. I'm not going to stress over, you know, whether I feel. So I got offered, you know, do this. Well, that's good. Maybe I got other gifts and talents that I haven't discovered yet. I think you do. I think it's new every morning. You can't just say, well, my spiritual gift is this. Well, really? Did God tell you that's it? I gave you one 25 years ago, and now you've done your time, so I guess you're not needed anymore. Maybe your spiritual gift is going to be something that requires you to have slowed down in life. And you can't do what you once did, but now you can do this, and you can do it better than you could have ever imagined, and maybe better than it's ever been done for you in any of your church experiences. I'm going to serve the ministry of my church by discovering my gifts and talents, by being equipped to serve by my pastors. That's part of their job description, to equip the saints for works of service. And I'll serve the ministry of the church by developing the right attitude. It's not all about me. It's really about unaddressed needs that I see. And instead of complaining, I'm going to get up from the table. Instead of asking, where are the servants? I'm going to get up from the table and I'm going to be one. And finally, in our church covenant, it says, I will support the testimony of my church. And this has always gripped me. I mean, this is not delivered to us like the Bible. This is just the work of saints. It was adopted January 29th, the year before I came. January 29th, 2006. Some group of people found this church covenant. Maybe they reworked some of it. I don't know. But they voted on it. Somehow, some way in a business meeting, they voted to adopt this as our current church covenant. And I loved it when I saw it. But what gripped me, it isn't, I'll support the testimonies of my church. It's, I will support the testimony, singular. And so I'm thinking about that. Well, what is the testimony of the church? I'll support it by attending faithfully. Well, that must mean I'll come and hear the preacher. Well, yeah. But is it his testimony that's important? Isn't it also connected with the drummer he's always talking about, the guitar player, and the sound guy, and the Sunday school teachers? Isn't it about the person who's organizing the potluck and directing the vacation Bible school, and the person who's washing the windows and taking care of the carpet and the tile? Yeah, there's only one testimony. So I took a picture of the entire entourage today. I had to stand back there over by Josh in order to get everybody in there. That's a pretty broad platform. Something to be proud of. And I said, worship is happening now. N-O-W. Worship is happening now. And someone might think, why don't he put that camera down and worship? Well, I was worshiping. Worship is happening now because I'm purposeful about it. I'm intentional about it. My worship is, I wanted to spread the word. The worship is happening now at, and I put that little at sign, at BE, and as soon as I do that, Bell Road Baptist Church pops up. And so if anybody wants to go, where is that? I said, worship is happening now in Auburn. At, then it says Bell Road Baptist Church. And so someone in Michigan might go, oh, really? Auburn, Indiana? That's not far away. They click on it, oh, it's Auburn, California. So they start making their travel plans. We've got to go to that church where something's happening now. Well, I don't see why that should be funny to us. It's funny, but it should be serious. Because where two or more are gathered in the name of Jesus, imagine what can happen. Amen. If we'll attend faithfully. That's not just showing up, it's thinking about it. Saying, John, where'd you get that song? Leland? Really? Because it sounded, you know, there was a lot of words there at one point. So I'd kind of like to listen to that again. That's attending. Thinking about it. Not just letting it hit you and happen to you, but thinking about it, attending to it. And by living a godly life. Now what is that? We talked about the Christian in the social order. And there might be a lot of stuff in the culture that's been loosed. Everybody can do this these days. Everybody except you, because you're a covenant member of a local church and you've committed to the other members of the church. You'll live a godly life. What does that mean? Well, it might mean a little bit different to you than it does to me, but generally, you heard me say, I don't expect I'm going to smoke marijuana anymore. I could qualify that if I was really, really sick with cancer and chemo and radiation. I hope you wouldn't kick me out of church. I wouldn't smoke it. I'd probably digest a little brownie or something, okay? But I said I hope I wouldn't, because maybe the Lord would just get me through the pain. So Lord, I'd rather just go through the pain without medication. We had one of our sisters said, I'm just going to live this cancer through, and I'm not going to take any chemo, I'm not going to take any radiation. I'm just going to let the Lord take me however He chooses to take me. I think that's probably what I would do. But it's important to me, because my interpretation of living a godly life might might blow your mind. You might say, well, I don't see how a Christian could do that, especially a pastor. Yeah, well, I say the same thing. When I had a bass guitar player once, I found out his girlfriend was living with him. And I go, man, what's going on here? He goes, well, everybody's got their stuff. This one smokes cigarettes, and I don't see anything wrong with it. And I said, well, I see something wrong with it. Yeah, but I don't see it. It's not anybody's place to judge. I said, well, I can't really let you play bass. Oh, really? I said, well, look. What would you think if I got up to preach and you knew I had somebody other than my wife I was messing around with? You wouldn't want me to preach, would you? No. I said, well, that's how I feel. Now, we can't go through and police every little thing that happens among us, but I can say to you, if I'm a member of your local church, I'm going to take this seriously. I'm not going to live a double life. You might not agree with the way I live my life. You might not agree with everything I do, every little point. That's your choice, and you've got your relationship with God, but I've got my relationship with God too. But I will tell you this, I will live a godly life. And maybe as you live a godly life in front of me, maybe some of your godliness is going to rub off on me. And I'll support the